Thank you for joining me. My name is Laura Pustarfi, and I'm here to speak about rights for trees, specifically proposing that trees may have a right to place based on the work of phenomenologist Edward S. Casey. I'd like to first acknowledge the land that I'm speaking to you from. I'm in the East Bay of California, which is in unceded Chochenyo Ohlone territory. My work and scholarship is situated in the Western tradition, which is my own lineage, both personally and intellectually. I'm joined here by oak and eucalyptus. I'll be speaking about the precedents for tree rights, exploring Casey's work on place, and opening the question about what arboreal rights might look like. The history of Western philosophy has primarily regarded trees and plants as inferior to humans and animals, starting with the writings of Plato and Aristotle all the way through to the 20th century. However, some scholars are beginning to rethink the place of plants ontologically, following the cutting-edge science showing that plants are intelligent, communicate, and have complex relationships. This is leading to questions about the ethical treatment of plants, including trees, what might be called an arboreal or vegetal ethic, which includes considerations of moral and legal rights for trees. So I've decided to focus on trees because they are both larger and older than humans, and I might say charismatic in the way that many of us have very strong feelings for specific trees. They're also a good exemplar of the way we can think anew about plants. So, can a tree even have rights? As part of the rights of nature movement, several rivers around the world have been granted legal rights, and there are ongoing cases like that of Happy, the elephant at the Bronx Zoo in New York, for legal rights for animals. So these rights of nature and animal rights movements can give an example for us. Thinkers in the Western lineage have occasionally suggested rights and legal standing for trees and plants. Articles with titles like Humanity to Trees, which is from the late 19th century, and another titled Animal Chauvinism, Plant Regarding Ethics, and the Torture of Trees, which is from 1986, have suggested something like rights for trees. Most famously, Christopher Stone, who is a legal scholar, argued that trees should have rights in a 1972 article titled, Should Trees Have Standing? Stone suggested that what he called natural objects should be allowed legal rights. Another key document is the 2008 Swiss governmental brochure titled The Dignity of Living Beings with Regard to Plants, Moral Consideration of Plants for Their Own Sake, which sought to articulate what dignity for life means in terms of plants. While the brochure doesn't address rights directly, it affirms that plants should not be harmed arbitrarily. So legal rights for trees of some sort could be an avenue towards both greater environmental protection and towards recognition of trees as intelligent and relational beings. Edward S. Casey's work on place is a helpful framework for thinking about arboreal rights. Casey's work is grounded in the philosophical discipline of phenomenology. Phenomenology inquires into human consciousness and perceptive experience as a way of understanding the world. Place is often overlooked in favor of time and space. Casey says, place is what takes place between body and landscape. He reminds us to be is to be in place. Place is the condition as well as the limit of existence. Trees, as enduring individuals within the environment, have an arboreal form of place. So Casey's philosophy is open to such an expansion. He leaves open the possibility that animals and plants might possess their own equivalents of embodiment and emplacement, in his words. This phenomenological approach is an embodied and experiential way to look at trees and reconsider ethical relationships between trees and humans. So humans experience and animals experience movement from place to place. We come into a place and we leave a place. However, trees, unless forcibly uprooted and replanted, remain standing in one place throughout their entire lives. Living trees are engaged with and make place. While trees are often backgrounded as merely part of the scenery, they are involved in arboreal activities that we don't even know about as humans, and they impact their surroundings. So for example, trees change the light that filters to the ground, they provide homes for other plants and animals, and they shift the local climate. Trees also make place that is inaccessible to humans in their crowns and below the soil. Casey affirms that place contains ethical concern. Because trees endure standing in one place throughout their entire lives, ethical considerations towards trees must take arboreal existence into account rather than imposing an anthropocentric view. Of course, I want to acknowledge that place has not always been a right for humans. For example, indigenous peoples being forcibly removed from their homelands and the enslavement of Africans in the Americas. Acknowledgement of these human atrocities is critical to a conversation about trees, place, and ethics. Trees and plants are uniquely ethically problematic. Even considering something like a fruitarian diet, which is eating only the fruits and fruits of plants without killing them, we humans must take plant lives for building and fuel, among other sustaining needs. Thus, trees may not have a right to life or to bodily integrity, rights that are often asserted for humans and then argued in terms of animals. An ethical stance towards trees may not be based on total lack of harm, but instead might be based on taking trees with respect to their lives and their place. While trees may not have a right to life, they may have a right to place in an arboreal ethic. What could this look like practically? Such a place-based ethic must take into account each place's indigenous and local people's needs and wishes. An ethic of place may mean allowing a tree or plant to remain and thrive wherever possible. However, there are cases where taking a tree or plant is essential for human livelihood. And in these cases, an ethic of place may offer an alternative to an ethic based on total lack of harm. When a tree must be taken for human purposes, the place itself could be allowed to regenerate with or without the help from the harvester. This regeneration could consider both the individual tree and the surrounding, acknowledging ecological interrelationships. Once a tree or forest has been cut, place irrevocably changes. However, forests depend on change and death for their overall health, and this may be an opening for intentioned human taking. Such a place-based arboreal right would have implications, for example, for avoiding deforestation, and this is a significant part of the solution to climate change. So, in closing, I'd like to come back to the place where I am, here in the Bay Area of California. Here there are native oaks and redwoods as well as invasive eucalyptus. Where I am currently near my home, oak and eucalyptus exist together. Do these trees, which are on private property, have a right to place? Locally, there's been a debate about removing non-natives like eucalyptus and if native species like oak should have preference. I don't propose to answer this question here, but rather to open up the conversation about place for trees and what might be implied if an arboreal ethic and right to place were to be taken seriously. So conversation about arboreal and vegetal rights and ethics is a move towards respecting trees and plants as intelligent beings worthy of human respect. Thank you.